Hello viewers, and welcome to the first video of our coverage for F1 2011. I had the chance to interview Anthony Davidson and David Croft. Anthony explains his racing knowledge while David explains his knowledge of off-throttle blown diffusers, proving he's an expert when it comes to hot air. But that's enough of that for now. Check this out. Hello viewers, so today I'm joined by Anthony Davidson and David Croft, and we're going to be talking a little bit about... No, I'm thinking, I've got my questions here that I wrote down in 2 seconds, right? We're not going to start again, we're just going to carry on from there. So, Anthony, Le Mans this year, it's been all action. Talk to me a bit about all the races so far. I mean, you've had a great win at Imola this weekend, pole position, teammate Sebastian Bourdais. How's it been for you?
It's been really good actually, really getting to grips with the sports car scene. We had a strong Le Mans, 13.5 seconds covered the eventual winner, and Peugeot in second place of car number 9. I unfortunately finished 4th in the race, but 3 Peugeots finished this year, so 100% better record than last year. But yeah, we're still pulling away in the ILMC Championship, which is good, and we're on our way to win that one. Obviously next year the change coming is a big one. It's going to be a full-on FIA World Championship series, so if we do the same thing next year we'll be world champions, so that's a big thing to think about. Porsche have announced their entry as well in 2014. Rumours that Toyota and Nissan possibly are coming in as well, but they're just rumours. I think it's going to be a growing championship, and one to be part of is it's a good thing for any driver.
Yeah, the introduction of Audi this year has really sort of raised the profile of it all. How's the car to drive? I mean, the drivers were saying that the balance was tricky in the car at Le Mans. How have you found it? Is it harder to set up than, say, perhaps for the guys in the Audi? I mean, obviously you haven't driven that one, but just as an idea of balance.
Well, I think, as you climb the peak of performance up the pyramid together, you arrive at the peak at the same point, and therefore there's not much else you can do with car development, and it's the finer details that make the difference, like tyre wear and switching the tyres on, like we see in Formula 1 many times as well. And I think we just struggled with not being able to switch the tyre on in Le Mans, and the other races like Spa, where we won, and also in Imola as well. We found the sweet spot with the tyres, and that's, I think, what explains the difference in performance. And Le Mans is obviously a very different circuit to the other two as well, but it's not too far away from Spa, and I'm surprised why we had the speed there and not in Le Mans. But it's I wouldn't say the car's difficult to drive at all. It was a beautiful car, and all the way through the weekend in Imola, wet or dry. And yeah, we just missed out. I mean, 13 seconds in a 24-hour race. There can't be that much difference between the cars.
Well, I will say congratulations for your victory at Imola this weekend. I will say, just watching Le Mans, it was the way the cars hammer it round now. I mean, they're not even taking care of the car at any point. Everybody's just sort of on it every lap. Yeah. But moving swiftly to F1. So, both you guys now, a bit about the F1 season this year. What's been, say, the sort of highlights for you guys this year?
Highlight was Canada. Fantastic race in changeable conditions. Highlight has been seeing more overtaking, whether you agree with DRS or not. A little bit gimmicky from my own personal viewpoint, but at least we're getting more overtaking. And I think another highlight as well is the form of Sebastian Vettel. I know he's in the best car. It's easy to drive the best car, but he's matured. He's got better since he won the World Championship, and that's what I kind of like from sports sometimes, to see guys, right at the limit and then going above that limit as well. And I think Sebastian Vettel has just settled into the mantle of world champion on the track beautifully this year.
But your highlight then, Anthony?
Oh, it's got to be the Pirelli tyres. They changed the sport for the better, I think, and it's given the drivers a challenge, the strategy guys a challenge as well, and I think it's really helped spice up the racing. That's been one of the biggest turning points of Formula 1 going into 2011, and it's something, yeah, everyone's really having to literally get to grips with.
Now, we talked about briefly Now, the maturity you mentioned of Vettel. Another driver who's having ups and downs this year is Lewis Hamilton. Ups and downs in every race. What's happening with Lewis this year? What do you think's going through his mind?
I'd like a better car. I think is what's going through Lewis Hamilton's mind, and no disrespect to McLaren, it's a good car, but it's not the best car. And once again, at the start of the season, it's not been the best car, so they're playing catch-up. And Lewis Hamilton would just love to be in with a chance of fighting for a World Championship right from the outset. He's been criticised for a lot of his overtaking moves. It's worth pointing out there are more opportunities for drivers to get it wrong this year because there are more overtaking opportunities than we've had in the past. Lewis Hamilton is just doing what he's always done, but attracting criticism when it doesn't work. He shouldn't change because we love the way that he's driven in the past. And Niki Lauda overreacted, I think, a little bit after Canada. He's not dangerous. He's not going to get someone killed, but maybe he does need to just look at where it's going wrong for him in those overtaking moves and think, well, how can I do it differently? But, you know, I mean, Ants, the driver here, will tell you this in a split second. It's difficult to think twice, isn't it?
I'm sure. I suppose sometimes, just from a viewer's perspective, he just needs to chill out a bit. I think he puts himself under a lot of pressure, and obviously there is that bubble of pressure in F1. You're mentioning the tyres, drivers adjusting to the tyres. Mark Webber's one I've mentioned. He seems to struggle early in qualifying on the hard tyre, just about making the bubble, but then he makes it to the top 4. Is that just getting used to new tyres?
I think Mark Webber, when you look at his style and his performances in the past, he's traditionally been very good when there's a lot of grip available to you. Remember when he was in the Jaguar racing days, he would do a very slow out lap because the tyres were very grippy, and he would nail it for one lap and put that Jaguar on the front row sometimes. And that was in the peak of the tyre war, if you like, with Michelin and Bridgestone. And now you haven't got that luxury. They are slippery, they're twitchy cars to drive, and it doesn't give the driver much confidence at all. And I think Mark, he struggles to find that peak of the grip of the tyre and the drop-off of the slip angle of the tyre as well. And I think he needs a softer, grippier tyre to really get the best out of himself. And he openly admits that Sebastian's hit this season running with adapting to the new tyres quickly. Sebastian's very good at adapting anyway from high fuel to low fuel. And we know that from the past, but it's something that Mark, I think, has just struggled to cope with so far this year. But he's getting there, and Valencia, I think, was a real turning point for him.
I've got a different question now, just how teammates, as we...
Until she comes back again.
Yeah, exactly. As people walk past in the middle of questions. I suppose another question is, Jenson Button, spectacular in Canada. But I have a question about teammates now. We talked with him and Rubens back in 2009. There was an open struggle between the drivers. I've seen it happen a lot with him over his career, with Jacques Villeneuve as well, years before that, and BAR and stuff like that. And now it's kind of like, it's almost on the edge a little bit at McLaren. Is that, you mentioned Lewis is struggling because the car's not ready to win races. Jenson has been in a car that's been terrible, frankly, in the past. Is that experience sort of helping him while at the same time frustrating Lewis? Would one driver's psychological position affect his teammate in that way, just in race to race?
I think Jenson's in a really good place at the moment, and I do think he's driving well. He's made a couple of mistakes this year, as we saw in China, hitting the wrong pit box with Felipe Massa in Australia, both of which cost him a podium. But by and large, he's in a really good place, and he knows in changeable conditions he's got a great chance of winning the race. He is world champion from 2009, and if he never wins another world title, that'll be fine for Jenson Button. He's gone out and he's done what he always wanted to do and win a world championship. Lewis Hamilton, by winning a title so early in his Formula One career, is after more. So maybe is putting more pressure on himself to go out and get more titles. It's almost expected of him, isn't it, that he will be a multiple world champion. And he doesn't like the fact that his teammate is doing well in the same way Jenson wouldn't like the fact that Lewis was doing really well. But they're rivals, and they should be rivals. But I just think Jenson, he's 6 years older than Lewis, therefore is slightly more relaxed, slightly calmer, slightly more mature in his outlook, because that comes with age. You know full well that 5 years ago you were a lot less mature than you are now, and with age and experience comes just a little bit of calmness and peace of mind.
A little bit of commentary box banter there. Now we move swiftly on to...
I'm not saying you're an old man, I'm just saying that you've lost a lot of hair since we spoke.
It's going, it's fading, it's aerodynamic. Aerodynamic, no. Now we must move swiftly on to the game as well now. You've been playing last year's, playing this year's. What are the biggest steps forward do you feel that convey the racing experience?
I think the biggest steps forward is handling. That's what I've been involved in more than anything else, and yeah, we all knew that last year's handling model wasn't completely perfect, and we had to make big steps, and I think we've achieved that. I think they worked heavily on the suspension. We worked heavily on trying to achieve a good balance between the faster cars and the slower cars, and I hated the fact that I could win races sometimes in the car that should be at the back of the grid, because that I know from experience in the real car it's impossible. So I've really tried to, you know, hammer that home that it should be impossible in a game as well, and in a way makes the game longer, because it takes you longer to get through the ranks and into a better car. But yeah, working with them and working on the handling has been good fun. We worked on the camera angles as well, made big changes there.
I remember you saying about the bumping in the in-car view. That's all gone now as well, and that's all just down to your input, I suppose, as well. I mentioned it at the time on some of the videos. Just racing this, if there's some experiences in the game, what's been your best experience you've seen that you say, wow, that reminds me of being in an F1 car?
I just think, yeah, I mean, it's the handling and the experience of battling against another human player rather than AI, and having a good old ding-dong around the track and using all the driver aids available, the DRS and the KERS, and if you don't use them, you're not as fast, and you'll be vulnerable. So in a way it really allows the player to understand what's going on inside a modern day F1 car and empathise with the real drivers.
Now, final question, Silverstone GP, blown diffusers are being, you know, the exhaust sort of way they control it is being changed now.
Do you want me to put you right now? Off throttle blown diffusers.
Off throttle blown diffusers, yes.
Because when you're on the throttle, it still blows.
No, of course, yeah, because it adds additional downforce. Yeah, I know, and well, obviously it's going to affect Red Bull, and Adrian Newey was mentioning to Jake and the rest of them that it's going to have an effect. What are you guys expecting for the British Grand Prix?
Rain.
Rain?
Silverstone is going to have to rain, isn't it? I'm camping out for the weekend with Virgin Racing, so it's definitely going to rain. I'm not expecting the pecking order to change massively. I think we'll see a closer battle in midfield. Helmut Marko thinks, oh, it's half a second it's going to cost Red Bull. I can't see it costing half a second. It's going to cost 0.2, maybe 0.3 of a second a lap. Who's going to be disadvantaged the most? Maybe Red Bull, because their whole system has been designed around it. Maybe McLaren, because they've got an efficient off-throttle blown diffuser as well. But we'll only see come practice. But I think for Silverstone, if it's dry, it should be a Red Bull race. The track is well suited to the Red Bull car. There's no reason why Sebastian Vettel can't go out and win it. That they have got a very good driver in the best car at the moment. But I'd like to see a lot of rain. Mix it up a bit.
I don't know if we'll see much change, really. I mean, it was almost gone in Valencia, and it didn't really change the running order that much. But I think what it might do is just close up the midfield teams to the high-end drivers and cars, because they obviously can't afford to put in the same level of R&D into that kind of technology. But I think if they banned the on-throttle blown diffuser, then you'd see some differences. But they're not going to do that.
That would, well, obviously it would affect grip, but would that make overtaking easier if they did that?
It would take away a lot of grip. I mean, they purposely took away a lot of downforce from the diffuser going into this year. They banished the double diffuser, which was a trick way around the system, the regulations, and that gave them probably about 50% more downforce than having a full-on single layered diffuser like they have today. But then they found a trick around it again with blowing hot gas through it. So next year they're going to ban that. So finally next year we might be in a situation where in the rules they finally stop these boffins in the factory working their way around it.
Come up with something else.
They will. They'll always come up with something. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to listening to you both at Silverstone this weekend. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Young man.
Aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
Well, I'm sure you agree that was a lot of fun, viewers. We had a good chat there, a lot of banter. It could have gone on for absolutely ages, but that's just the beginning of our coverage. Loads more to come in the coming days. Watch this space, and I'll see you all soon.